The alien dragon palace was always loud in the mornings. Young dragon kids usually ran through the golden halls, laughing, roaring softly, and begging for food. But today, the palace felt strangely silent. The giant kitchen fires were burning, the pots were boiling, and the chefs were shouting orders yet. The most important thing was missing. The dragon kids were not eating. The queen dragon stood near the royal nursery, her wings half open, her eyes full of worry. Her 3 children sat on soft pillows, staring at the floor. Their scales looked dull, their tails moved slowly, and their breathing was weak. They had refused breakfast again for the last 5 days. They refused every meal, no matter what the dragon chefs cooked fire-roasted meat. Glowing fruits, lava-baked eggs, the kids pushed the plates away. The queen had never felt fear like this before. Dragon children were supposed to be strong and hungry all the time. But her kids were losing energy every hour. Inside the grand kitchen, panic grew like wildfire. Dragon chefs slammed pots, shouted at each other, and blamed each other for failure. Smoke filled the air. Spices covered the floors. The head chef, a huge red dragon, roared loudly, "I have cooked 4 kings and warriors. And now tiny kids reject my food. Impossible." But deep inside, he was terrified. If the royal children stopped eating completely, their bodies would weaken. They might never grow their wings properly. It would be a disaster for the entire dragon. Kingdom. Whispers spread through the palace. Maybe it's a sickness. Maybe someone cursed the children. Maybe the queen angered the old gods. Fear crept into every corner of the royal halls. The queen ordered the best doctors. They checked the kids with glowing crystals, ancient smoke, and magical firelight. But every doctor said the same thing. They are healthy. But their bodies reject all dragon food. The queen's heart dropped. For the first time in years, she felt helpless. A royal guard stepped forward and bowed. He was young, nervous, and shaking a little. "Your Majesty, I have an idea. It is strange. But maybe we should call a human." The kitchen froze. The doctors stepped back. The chefs gasped to human. In the dragon palace, to cook food for royal children. The queen stared at him, shocked. Why would a human understand dragon taste? The guard swallowed hard. "My grandmother once said something. Human food has a different kind of comfort. Simple food. Warm food. Maybe the children need something different." The queen almost laughed, but her fear was too strong. "You want a human to cook for dragon royalty?" The guard nodded slowly. "If we do nothing, the children will get worse." Silence filled the room. Finally, the queen closed her eyes. She did not care about pride anymore. She only cared about her kids. "Bring the human," she whispered. Hours later, the palace gates opened. Guards stepped aside, and a simple human man walked in. He had no armor, no weapons, no magic. Just a small cooking bag over his shoulder and calm eyes. Dragons watched him from every window, whispering and judging. "That tiny creature is supposed to help our children. He will be eaten before he reaches the kitchen. He looks weak. He looks lost." But the human did not look afraid. He looked determined. The queen stepped forward. "Human, can you help my children?" The human bowed respectfully. "I will try." He touched the dragon air, sniffed lightly, and frowned. Something felt wrong. He opened his bag, took a deep breath, and said quietly, "I know what to do, but you won't like it." The queen and the chefs stared at him, confused and tense. What could a human possibly cook that dragons had failed to make? The human stood quietly at the entrance of the grand kitchen. He looked small compared to the huge stone walls, giant hanging pans, and piles of glowing alien ingredients. Dragon chefs were much taller, much stronger and much louder. When the human stepped forward, every dragon in the kitchen stopped working. All eyes locked on him. He felt the heat of the ovens, the pressure of their stares, and the danger in the air, but he did not step back. Instead, he calmly placed his cooking bag on a stone table. The head dragon chef snorted flames. So this is the human who thinks he can fix what we failed. Another chef whispered loudly, "Look at him. He is no bigger than a dragon hatchling." The human ignored the comments. He walked slowly around the kitchen, touching bowls, smelling spices, observing details. Every step he took made the dragons more confused and more annoyed. Finally, the queen entered the room. All dragons bowed deeply. The human bowed too, respectfully, but without fear. The queen's wings cast a long shadow over him. "Human," she said, "my children are starving. If you fail, the whole kingdom may suffer. Do you truly think you can help?" He nodded. "I can. But first, I need to understand why they stopped eating." The queen looked surprised. "Why? They simply refused." The human shook his head. "No. Children never simply stop eating. Something changed. Something small. Something everyone missed." The head chef growled. "Are you calling us blind?" The human didn't answer. He just walked to the stove where dragon meals were cooked. He dipped a tiny spoon into a thick, glowing orange soupda, one the dragons considered healthy and perfect for kids. He smelled it once. He frowned. He tasted a tiny drop. He froze. The queen leaned forward. "What is it?" The human pointed at the soup pot. "There is something wrong with the air around your food. It is small, very small, but it's affecting your children." Dragons looked around, confused. "The air." One chef repeated, "You mean the smell?" Another asked. The human nodded. "Humans can sense certain things, dragons cannot. Something in the kitchen is changing the taste of everything." He moved quickly, checking wooden bowls, metal pots, spice racks, even the stones on the floor. Finally, he found a crack near the wall. From it, a faint smoke, almost invisible, was leaking. He bent down, sniffed, his eyes narrowed. He whispered, "I knew it." The queen's voice shook. "What is it?" "A toxin," the human said softly. "Very weak, but strong enough to ruin the taste of every meal. Your children smell it too. That's why they refuse the food." The kitchen erupted into chaos. A toxin. Someone tried to poison the royal meals. This is impossible. Dragons shouted over each other, but the human stayed calm. He stood in the middle of the kitchen. "I can fix the food, but I must make something simple, something pure, something safe." The head chef laughed loudly. "Human food cannot solve a royal crisis." The human smiled a little. "Then let me prove it." He opened his cooking bag. Inside were only a few human ingredients, simple vegetables, soft bread, warm spices, and a small pot. The dragons stared in disbelief. That is all." One chef whispered. The human nodded. "Yes, for hungry children, simple warmth is enough." He lit a small fire under his pot. The dragons watched as he chopped vegetables with fast, gentle movements. The smell that rose from the pot was soft, comforting, completely different from dragon cooking. The queen stepped closer, her eyes widening. "What is this?" she asked. The human stirred the pot slowly. A simple human lunch. The dragons exchanged confused looks. The queen tilted her head. "And you think my children will eat this?" The human looked up, his eyes calm, steady, and confident. "They will," he said, "because this meal is made for the heart, not the stomach." The queen felt a strange pull in her chest. Hope, fear, curiosity. Then the human added one final ingredient, something small. Something delicate, something glowing faintly. The dragons gasped. "What is that?" The queen whispered. The human smiled softly. "The secret ingredient." He lifted the pot with both hands. "It's time," he said. "Let's take this to the children." But none of them noticed. In the shadow behind the kitchen door, a pair of glowing eyes watched them silently. Asterisk the human carried the warm pot carefully through the long hallway. And the queen walked beside him with slow, heavy steps. Her wings brushed against the walls, but her mind was somewhere else, filled with fear and a small spark of hope. Dragon guards followed them closely, still unsure whether trusting a human was wise. The dragons could smell the food from afar. It wasn't sharp or spicy like their own dishes. It wasn't powerful or fiery. It was gentle, comforting, strange, but warm. The queen whispered, "Human. This smell, what is it?" The human smiled lightly. "Something human children love. Something soft. Something that brings calm." The queen lowered her head slightly. "My children have not felt calm for days." They reached the royal nursery. The room was dim, silent, and cold. 3 dragon kids sat curled together, tired and weak. Their scales had lost their shine. Their wings drooped. They looked up when the queen entered, but their eyes had no energy. The human kneeled on the floor, careful and respectful. He slowly opened the pot. Steam rose into the air, carrying a smell unlike anything in the dragon world. The smallest dragon child blinked. The middle one raised his nose. The oldest lifted her head, eyes wide with curiosity. The human placed the pot on the floor and waited. He didn't force them. He didn't speak. He let the smell do the work. The queen watched nervously. "Will they?" "Try it." The human didn't answer. He simply nodded toward the children. The youngest dragon crawled forward first. He sniffed again, tilting his tiny head. Then, slowly, he dipped his small claw into the pot and tasted a drop. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his eyes widened. His wings twitched. A small spark of life lit up in his face. He took another bite, a bigger one. Then he pulled the pot closer. The other 2 dragon kids rushed forward, suddenly hungry. They dipped their claws in, tasting and licking. The food disappeared so fast it shocked even the human. The queen gasped. She had tears in her eyes. They are eating. They are really eating. But the human was not celebrating. He stared at the corner of the room, the same corner where he sensed something earlier. A cold, thin line of smoke drifted along the floor, too faint for dragons to notice. The queen turned toward him. "Human, why do you look worried?" He whispered softly, "Because something is still wrong." The food helped, but the danger is not gone. He quickly checked the air again. The toxin was still present. Not enough to harm adult dragons, but enough to make children lose their appetite. He stood up and closed the pot. "Your Majesty, this is only the first step. I fixed the meal." "But not the problem." A queen frowned. "What problem?" He pointed toward the wall. "The same toxin from your kitchen is here too. That means it didn't come from ingredients. It came from somewhere inside the palace." The queen's eyes darkened. "Are you saying someone put it here?" He nodded. "A toxin that only affects children. Someone planned this." The queen's claws tightened against the floor. "Who would dare try to harm my children?" The human looked down at the pot. "Someone who wants you to blame the chefs. Someone who wants chaos. Someone who wants the kingdom weak." Suddenly a loud crash came from the hallway. Dragon guards shouted. Something big ran past them, fast like a shadow. The human grabbed the queen's arm. "Stay with your children. Don't leave them." The queen roared, "Guards, find that intruder." But deep inside, she knew. This was no simple kitchen problem. This was a threat to the entire dragon empire, and the only one who sensed it first was the human. The dragon guards rushed down the long hallway, their heavy footsteps shaking the stone floor. The queen's roar echoed behind them. But inside the nursery, everything felt frozen. The dragon children, finally full after days of hunger, curled together with soft breaths. Their scales glowed a little brighter, their wings twitched with new strength. The human watched them silently. He felt relief, but also unease. Something had moved outside, something fast, something that didn't belong in a royal palace. The queen lowered her massive head until her eyes were level with the human. Your food saved them. But they are not safe yet, are they? The human shook his head. No. Someone wants them weak. Someone wanted you to panic. And that someone is still inside the palace. The queen's tail thrashed with anger. I will tear them apart. The human raised a hand. Your Majesty, don't fight blindly. If the enemy hid a toxin, they might hide traps. Or worse, something targeting the children again. The queen took a slow breath, forcing herself calm. Then speak. What do we do now? Before the human could answer, the oldest dragon child lifted her head. Her eyes, still tired but brighter than before, focused on him. What? Was that food? She whispered. The human smiled gently. Something human children love. A warm vegetable stew, with a tiny bit of comfort. The little dragon frowned. Comfort. Yes, he said softly. Human food carries feelings. Love, safety, memories. Maybe that's what you needed. The queen watched this exchange with wide, stunned eyes. She had always believed dragons only grew strong through power flame strength, fire-blooded meals. But here, her children found comfort in something gentle. How did you know? She whispered. The human looked down at his hands. Because I remember being a hungry child too. The queen was silent. But their moment of calm didn't last long. A sudden gust of cold wind swept into the nursery. The torches flickered violently. The human's eyes snapped toward the doorway. A shadow slipped across the hallway there for only a second, but enough to send a shiver down his spine. The queen growled. The intruder is still close. The human stepped toward the door. Let me check. The queen blocked him with her wing. A human cannot face a palace enemy alone. I'm not trying to fight, he said. I'm trying to understand. She hesitated, then allowed him through. The hallway was dim. Only soft blue fire crystals lit the walls. The guards had run ahead, chasing the intruder's trail. The air felt thick, heavy, and strangely cold, too cold for a dragon palace. The human kneeled near the floor. Their faint marks scratched the stone. Not claws, not dragon. Something thinner, sharper. He touched the scratches. He sniffed the air. The toxin smell was stronger here. Someone had passed through recently, leaving a dangerous trail behind. He whispered, This wasn't an accident. Someone placed the toxin exactly where the children would be. He followed the marks a few steps until they ended near a massive decorative pillar carved with ancient dragon symbols. He felt the stone and froze. The stone was warm on one side, cold on the other. A hidden passage. His breath tightened. Someone had used a secret path to move inside the palace without being seen. He hurried back to the nursery. Your Majesty, he said quickly, whoever did this didn't enter from the main gates. They used a secret route. Someone with knowledge of your palace. The queen's pupils thinned in shock. Impossible? Only the royal family and senior chefs know the old tunnels. The human felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. That means, he said slowly, your enemy is not outside the palace. He looked directly at the queen. They are one of your own. The queen's wings snapped open in fury and disbelief, and behind them, in the shadows of the nursery doorway, something watched silently, its glowing eyes narrowing. The queen dragon stood frozen, her wings half open, her breath shaking the air around her. Her children were safe for the moment. But the human's words echoed inside her mind like thunder. Your enemy is one of your own. The idea felt impossible. Dragons were loyal. Dragons were proud. Dragons protected their young with their lives. Who would dare betray the royal family? The queen whispered, "Tell me everything you found." The human pointed toward the hallway. "There's a secret passage behind a carved pillar. Someone used it recently. The toxin you smelled in the kitchen is the same one near the nursery. Whoever placed it knew exactly where your children spend their time." The queen's eyes narrowed. "That means the person has been inside my palace for a long time. Long enough to study our routines," the human nodded, "and long enough to hide without being noticed." Suddenly, the middle dragon child lifted his head. "Mama, I smelled something before. Someone came to our room when we were sleeping." The queen's heart dropped. "Why didn't you tell me?" The little dragon lowered his head. "I thought it was one of the chefs. I didn't know." The queen felt guilt stab her chest. She looked at the human. He was right. Someone was here before. Before she could say more, loud footsteps thundered through the hallway. Dragon guards returned, panting. "Your Majesty." One guard shouted. "We checked every corridor, every window, every exit. No one escaped." Another guard added, "Whatever moved past us vanished." The human tilted his head because they didn't escape. They went back into the palace. The queen roared in frustration. "Enough of this. Bring me all the senior chefs now." The guards hurried off. The human gently placed his hand on her claw. "Your Majesty, don't accuse the wrong person too fast. If the real traitor feels cornered, they may attack again, maybe even hurt your children." The queen took a deep breath, calming herself with effort. "You speak wisdom for a human." She lowered her voice. "But how do we find the real one?" The human looked around the nursery, scanning every corner, every shadow, every crack. He stopped near a decorative vase placed on a high shelf. A tiny mark scratched the surface thin, sharp, like the marks he saw in the hallway. He pointed. "Look." The queen leaned in. "This mark is not from dragon claws." "Exactly," the human said. "It's from something smaller, something sneaky." He picked up a piece of cloth nearby. It was black, thin, and smelled of burned herbs, the same smell as the toxin. The queen growled deeply. "This cloth belongs to the kitchen staff. Only they handle these herbs." She turned to her guards. "Find the head chef." But at that exact moment, a deep rumble came from the kitchen. A tremor shook the palace floor. Guards rushed toward the sound. The queen and the human followed quickly. When they reached the kitchen, they saw the head dragon chef lying on the floor, unconscious, smoke rising from his mouth. The queen cried out, "Chef Carvax!" The human checked his pulse. He's alive. But something attacked him. The queen looked around angrily. Was the toxin his doing? Or did someone try to frame him? The human examined the chef's neck. A strange symbol was burned onto his scales, a spiral shape with 3 claws. The human's eyes widened. This is not just a traitor. He stood up, voice tense. This mark belongs to the Shadow Fangs. The entire kitchen went silent. The queen whispered, terrified, "They are real." The human nodded slowly. "They are assassins. Ancient, silent, deadly. And if they are inside your palace..." He looked at the queen with a grave expression. "Your children were only the beginning." Behind them, something small moved in the darkest part of the kitchen. Not a dragon. Not a human. Something else. Watching, waiting. Planning its next move, the kitchen grew painfully quiet. Every dragon stood frozen, staring at the mark burned onto the head chef's neck. The queen's wings trembled. The human's jaw tightened. The shadow fangs dot an ancient clan spoken of only in whisper assassins who moved like ghosts. Worked in silence and left chaos behind. They were believed extinct. The queen whispered, voice shaking. They hide, the human said. They don't die. They wait for the right moment. And they chose my children, the queen growled, her eyes burning with fury. Suddenly, a sharp, metallic click echoed from the ceiling. The human looked up instinctively. Get down, he shouted. A thin black dart shot through the air, moving faster than a dragon's reflex. The queen ducked. The dart hit the oven behind her, melting metal instantly. The room erupted in flames. Guards rushed in, raising shields. Dragons roared. The human grabbed the queen's arm. Your children? They're the target. The queen's heart dropped. She sprinted toward the nursery, her huge wings smashing through doorways. The human ran after her, feet pounding against the hot stone floor as they reached the hallway. A thick cloud of gray smoke spread through the air, cold, poisonous, unnatural. The queen gagged. Dragons behind her stumbled. It's the toxin again. The human yelled, but stronger. Dragons cannot breathe this for long. The queen gasped, but the human. He pushed forward, coughing but moving. Humans had weaker bodies but stronger resistance to certain alien toxins. It wasn't safe, but he could endure it longer than dragons. He grabbed his cooking bag, ripped it open, and pulled out a small human stove. He lit it with shaking hands. A warm flame burned steadily normal human fire. What are you doing? The queen cried. The human threw herbs and spices into the flame. Human herbs. Earth spices. He mixed them with a powder from his bag. The flame burned blue, then golden, then exploded in a wave of warm, clean air. A shockwave rolled through the hallway, sweeping away the poisonous smoke. The queen stared in disbelief. Human fire. Can cancel the toxin. Human cooking fire, he corrected, coughing. I learned to clear smoke in my old kitchen. Never thought I'd need it in a dragon palace. The queen looked at him with new respectful eyes, but there was no time. They reached the nursery, inside. A tall shadow stood near the children, its shape, thin, twisted, almost insect-like. Dark scales covered its body. It moved slowly, quietly, as if made of smoke. The shadow fang assassin. The children whimpered. The creature raised a long, sharp claw toward the smallest dragon child. The human didn't think. He didn't wait. He ran. No? The queen roared. The assassin turned sharply, but too late. The human crashed into it with full force. They tumbled across the floor. The assassin hissed, its body cold and hard like stone. The human grabbed its wrist, holding back the deadly claw with all his strength. The queen lunged forward, but the toxin lingering in the air weakened her. The human held on alone, gritting his teeth. Get away from them, he shouted. The assassin hissed louder, pushing back with inhuman strength. Its claw dropped closer to the human's throat. The children cried. The queen gasped. The human's arm shook violently. Then he remembered something. He reached into his belt and pulled out a spoon coated with the glowing human ingredient, the same one from the stew. He slammed it into the assassin's face. A violent shriek filled the room. The assassin fell backward, clawing at its own skin. The glow burned it like acid. The queen seized the moment. She grabbed the assassin with her massive claws and crushed it against the ground. Silence. The assassin lay motionless, The queen stared at the human. You saved my children twice, and you fought a shadow fang alone. The human fell to one knee, exhausted. We're not done yet. The queen frowned. What do you mean? The human pointed to the wall, where more faint claw marks appeared. The assassin wasn't working alone. Something moved in the darkness. Something bigger. Something worse. The real enemy had just arrived. The room fell silent after the queen crushed the assassin. Dust floated through the air. The dragon children huddled together, shaking but alive. The human stood weakly, breathing hard, one hand pressed to his ribs. The queen moved to him at once. You fought with no armor, no claws, no fire, she said quietly. Why? The human looked at the trembling dragon kids. Because they were hungry. Because they were scared. Because children deserve safety. The queen's eyes softened, something rare for a dragon ruler. But before she could speak, the floor beneath them rumbled. A deep, cold vibration ran through the palace stones. The human turned sharply. The queen's wings lifted. The dragon guards braced themselves. From the far hallway, a tall figure stepped out. Black armor. Long curved claws. Eyes glowing red like dying stars. The Shadow Fang leader. He spoke in a voice that scraped like broken metal. You killed one of mine. The queen stepped in front of her children, roaring with fury. You dared enter my palace. You tried to poison my children. You will not leave alive. The assassin leader smiled. A thin, terrifying smile. The toxin was only the beginning. The little ones were not the goal. The queen froze. What do you mean? His eyes turned toward the human. The human's heart dropped. He was the real target. You, the leader hissed, are the human who once destroyed our nest. You ruined our plans on another world. We followed your scent here. The queen stared at the human in shock. You fought shadow fangs before. The human swallowed. Yes, long ago. I never knew they survived. The leader stepped forward. You saved dragon children today, but you cannot save yourself. The queen snarled, wings spreading wide. You will not touch him. The assassin leader leaped like a shadow, too fast for the eye. His claws slashed toward the human, but the queen blocked it with her tail, sparks flying. Guards! She roared. 10 dragons charged, but the Shadow Fang was swift, dodging between them like smoke. He struck hard. 2 guards fell. Another roared in pain. The human knew dragons were powerful. But the assassin was made for killing. The queen snapped her jaws at him. But he slipped out of reach, clawing her wing with a poisonous strike. She staggered back. The human saw her stumble. He saw the children cry. He saw the assassin moving toward them again. He couldn't wait. He grabbed the last item in his cooking bag. A small glass jar filled with a glowing human ingredient. The same ingredient that burned the assassin earlier. He shouted, "Hey!" The Shadow Fang turned. The human smashed the jar against the ground. A blinding burst of warm, golden light exploded across the room, filling the air with a comforting, powerful heat. The dragons flinched, but the assassin screamed. The light burned him like fire. The queen seized the moment. She wrapped her massive claws around the leader and slammed him into the floor hard enough to crack the stone. The assassin's body didn't rise again. Silence only. The heavy breathing of dragons and the human filled the room. The queen turned to him. That light was human food magic? He laughed weakly. No, just a cooking trick. A very strong one. The queen bowed her head, a gesture dragons rarely gave, and only to those they deeply honored. Human, you saved my children. You fought my enemies. You risked your life for my family. Her voice softened. "The Dragon Empire owes you everything." The three dragon children ran to him, wrapping their small wings around him. Their scales were warm, soft, full of life again. The human smiled, though his eyes were tired. "I only made lunch." The queen shook her head gently. "No, you made hope." Word of the humans spread across the empire. Dragons told the story of the tiny outsider who cooked a meal that saved royal children, exposed assassins, and protected the kingdom. His simple lunch became legend, and from that day on, dragons and humans shared kitchens, shared meals, and shared a new bond that changed both worlds forever.